Are we on?
Oh man.
Sound on?
It's happening.
Can you hear us
Is
all?
it real?
Hello.
I'll find out in a second.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Squirrel Spotlight. This week we have. What's your name?
Derek. Derek Warner.
And what do you do here?
I'm a level designer.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
And then this is the other co-host.
Yeah, I'm the beard replacement. I am Nathan.
We always need
Moore.
a beard.
Yeah.
So Nathan and I'm Mimi. Hello, everyone.
Hey there. Glad to see the gang's already getting back
Captain
together.
Crispy
Captain
is
Crispy and Starwolf hopping on in, and welcome Vision
my
Eve.
baby cakes.
Yeah.
That's you.
I guess so.
So Derek is first off, cheers.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have a cocktail.
Welcome back, fried rice.
Yes.
Yeah. We our cocktail things. Eric, Slancha.
We dropped the ball on the cocktails today, so we went and got beer because we have taps in our kitchen.
No, this is space beer.
Space beer.
That was plundered from Stranded.
Stranded.
That's
Well,
mostly what all the plunder is.
That's mostly all the plunder is beer and tiki.
Stranded is. Oh,
heads.
I'm sitting on my mic thing. Okay. Stranded is the name of the level that we're going to be talking about today. That Derek will be going through, talking about level building.
I'm guessing tentative title.
Yeah,
It's called Stranded.
probably.
Oh, yeah.
Working title.
Working title.
Working title.
So, what led you to become a level designer? Did you start out there, or did you work your way up?
So I started in the game industry long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, as an environment artist at Sierra Entertainment, the original Sierra Entertainment. Well, sort of, the one in Seattle. And at the time, we were working on an Unreal 2 engine game, and at the time, the teams were kind of small, and the level designers and artists were pretty much the same at the time. So I started as an artist. I was just going to do art, and then they needed someone to help out doing multiplayer levels. So I started designing those, and then slowly started doing more design work as game modes, and moved into doing level design.
Loved all the quest games from Sierra growing up.
Yeah.
Pickle.
Yeah, I was working with the team from SWAT 3. So a lot of good guys over there. It was cool.
So, Brad says, golly, Derek is so tan. Yeah, compared to us, he is. It's very tan. We should get Eric in here. And...
That's the Hawaii trip.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I
he
just got back from Maui on Saturday.
So did you go to school for art?
Yes. So I went to the Art Institute of Phoenix and got a Bachelor of Arts in Video Game Art and Design.
Oh, so actual
wow.
video game art.
Yeah.
So it's usually rare that we find people that actually got the degree in the specific video game
Yeah.
Right.
discipline.
When was that? If you...
That was 2003.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
I
So that was
also
like the early days of that being a thing.
And my final project that I did, my senior project, was a total conversion of the game Dungeon Siege, which was made by Gas Power Games at the time in Seattle. And the cool thing from that was Chris Taylor, who ran Gas Power Games, liked it and then sent me to E3 and paid for my ticket and got me into E3 before I was in the industry.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun.
So before coming to Blind Squirrel Games, you mentioned some of the studios you were at. What are some of the games you've worked on? Some favorites?
Some favorites. I worked on a canceled Stargate SG-1 game in Australia called Stargate SG-1 The Alliance. It's not the one that was the MMO. That had nothing to do with that. It was before that.
You were on that.
Yeah, and actually it was a tactical shooter. It was cool.
I saw screenshots for that.
Yeah, and it got really far along, and then we couldn't get a publisher, so that got canceled. Yeah. And then there's
unfortunately, that seems like to be a
legal troubles and all kinds of other stuff that happened. But I mean, we had VO from Richard Dean Anderson and all the people from the show.
Wow.
And a fun fact about Richard Dean Anderson: he will not read a line longer than 2 fingers. So if you go to the piece of paper, you put your 2 fingers on it. If it's longer than that, he's not gonna do it.
So is this
So
like
you have to shorten his lines.
was this for
Make
the
it
show?
small font. Right?
This is for the show. This is for the video game.
So it wasn't
this
just
is,
the video
this
game.
is like in
this
his
is just
contract.
Everything. Now I
Yeah.
need to go back and see everything he's ever done and like see
Yeah,
is
they're
that
really short.
2 lines.
He doesn't do long monologues. It's not him.
Maybe he
He-
can't remember. Maybe he has a memory issue.
Yeah. Really, he's,
Let's see. Wow, Dev got that far. All right.
Yeah, that's
please
pretty surprising.
do
I mean,
lines.
I know that like kind of alpha is where a lot of games get like that new market evaluation, and people go, never mind, which seems like really far down the line.
yeah,
But-
it was,
but it
and it
actually
was
happens a
not
lot.
cheap to have because we had
Right.
all 4 of them. Well, actually, like 6 or 8 of the people from the TV show record their lines
Boy,
in
that's crazy.
Vancouver. And,
Yeah, you would think that would be
yeah.
a good sell. People would go nuts
Mhm.
over that.
Right.
There was a leak, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Someone leaked like the entire game on where it was. So it's somewhere on the web. I didn't do it, and it wasn't me. But
All right, we got
it
him.
just showed up one day, and I was like, huh. Yeah, that was it.
And then you said you worked on Shadow the Tomb Raider too.
Yeah, that was most recently.
Yeah.
I did a couple levels in that. Before moving on to other things. So that was cool, and it's still there because I saw it on. I watched a Twitch streamer looking for my levels.
Oh, they didn't cut your levels?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was
So we're
like,
like,
are
all
they
right,
still
this
there?
guy's gone. Get rid of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, stuff always changes, so there's minor changes, but it was still there for the most part.
How does the level system work? Like, so are you talking about what are the systems that are used to generate levels, or is that what you're talking about, Captain Crispy?
Or like just how does the progression, how does one, build a level, how does it evolve? Because we're going to get into that. We got all sorts of questions about the actual intricacies of level building. I wish I was on Mr. Beardman's level. You are Captain Crispy.
It's actually just glue and hair for my head. It's just.
So I mean, we'll get into level building. Sentient Pickle, I think you're new here. We have a few fans that are obsessed with beards and salmon. And it's gotten to a point where it devolves eventually into the only topic of conversation
Derek,
for the rest of the show.
Why are you looking for meaning in memes?
Beards and salmon is just
I
like
don't
pretty
know.
random.
Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that we at least have one bearded person on the stream each week to appease our beard-hungry fans.
You gotta spam it, Eric. Come on.
So, thanks, Eric. So, what is the first step in level building?
So I built levels in Unreal Engine and proprietary engines, but they all kind of go the same. So we basically come up with a concept, a paragraph, or basically just like a brief description of what the level is going to be. For Stranded, it was it's going to be a cargo ship in space that has been damaged and is stranded, which is where the name comes from. And it's also like going to be destroyed by like an asteroid belt, and now planet's exploding. So you have to quick plunder it and get out with the loot before it gets destroyed.
Right.
So that was the whole concept behind it.
So do you work closest with like the lead designer, like Dell and stuff?
I worked with Dell on Hayden on just like the concept of it, and a little bit with the art, just to make sure that we're not asking for crazy stuff they can't make. In the initial stages, it's not like a lot of art. They're basically waiting for me to get some more concrete stuff for them to look at. So.
Do you usually start, because you said you had like a little summary of what the level is going to be. Do you usually start with a like overarching, like an arc for the entire game, or do you start with a level and then see where it goes?
You can. Some projects have, like, if they're single player story driven, then you do have like an entire arc, and where those levels are going to fit in. No one ever does them in order either, so you may work on the last level first and do some in the middle, but so you definitely need that list of like where everything's going to fit in, because if you're working on a different level, and sometimes they get moved around. Like there was one story that I heard from one of the games I worked on, that the like fourth level became the first level of the game. Like at the end of production, like they just switched stuff around. So
it's just being a writer and writing plays and stuff. It do the same thing. Like you'll find like all of a sudden, it'll be much more interesting if it starts here and you rearrange the scenes. So there's a lot of, narrative is narrative.
Especially when you have it all and you can like see all of it at once. You're like, this one really should go here, and changing stuff around for pacing. So stuff like that. But so after that paragraph, I move into I used to do paper maps and just draw it out really quick and stuff. I've kind of switched off of that because it's just as fast for me to do it in SketchUp, which is it's a Google program. It's really easy to build 3D stuff quickly and iterate on it. So I just start with that.
Oh, very cool.
And start building that stuff.
So Verizon Evo, thank you for the host, and also for Sentient Pickle. Basically, there is iteration that comes from the designer, kind of like I think for like that there have been a couple of points where it's been like, hey, we have this very rough idea, but also just like what are the interesting play spaces, and then what do we put on top of that as far as narrative and stuff like that. So I don't know, how would you say?
In that paragraph, there goes a little bit more. We do come up with some people call it hero assets, or basically points of interest.
Sorry, that was hero assets or points of interest, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's busy, Brad. He wants to know if you want to go downstairs. That's our CEO.
That's our CEO asking if our level designer wants to go hang out. Sorry, visions. Sorry, visions. My eyes are not good. Too many video games. Stay in school, kids.
They sometimes call them hero assets or points of interest. It's just like basic elements in the level that are going to give you direction. Like you can always see it anywhere you look around to give you direction of where you are in the level, or stuff to draw your attention to. That's where your focus is and where you're going to. So big towers or other landmarks that you can see in the level.
We have some of the concept, like the early stuff that you had sent.
Maybe.
Euphemism. Weenies. Like, here it goes. Here it goes. We're going downhill from here, guys.
This is the best part of the stream, though. Like when you're right, it's like the roller coaster.
And it's our CEO that started the whole
I know,
thing.
but it's like a roller coaster. It's like that part where you kind of get to the top and you're like realizing that it's just going to get more chaotic from here.
Some real good questions out there. So yeah, we have some pictures coming up of the. So what did you say that this was called? Are these what you used?
That's
Blackouts.
These are Blackouts done in SketchUp. This was like the
memories.
The very first iteration of like what the ship on Stranded was. Since we have the grapple mechanic, we're playing a lot with grappling between those cargo containers and seeing what that felt like, grappling around the ship. And just kind of testing stuff out. The cool thing with SketchUp is I can do a Blackout like this really quickly. It's to scale and just import directly into Unreal, and it'll already have collision, and we can run around with it. So I kind of get a paper map and a Blackout at the same time.
Yeah.
And so
because you go through that process really quick.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like when you came onto the project, you had this in like a week and a half, or
it wasn't very long.
It was really
there was a couple different renditions of it. You can go to the next one if you, right as he's going to drink his
beer.
No beer for you.
So yeah, here's another different rendition. Got rid of some of the cargo container stuff, but and just labeling out like what the themes are, and that's another thing that comes from. It's not really a paragraph anymore. It's more like a document that has like the paragraph of what it is, and then also labeling out themes and like hero assets and our points of interest. And so that's a little more detailed of what we're thinking of for this.
Right. And so like this is the one from like February of last year. I think.
Yeah.
Because
I started in February of last year. So.
Yeah, so you went through a lot of iteration. Well, because like this is not
This is my third day of working at Blind Squirrel.
At BSG, you hit the ground running.
So you have to be. Are most level designers? Are these all skills that you need to have? Is being able to block out this stuff? Is it kind of go?
Yeah, you always have to block it out. Like a lot of people just use like block assets and scale a bunch of blocks to make things. I just started this process because you could get a lot more. You could do a lot more. You can making interiors and stuff. You have to make a bunch of different blocks and ceilings, all this stuff. With SketchUp, I can just make a cube and then basically drill into it super quick, and like door frames and stuff, and just push through objects. It's really cool. Like we talked about maybe doing a stream of doing some of that.
Of you building the level. Yeah, hopefully a little later we can do something like that down the line. So cool. Of just him building
live
level.
Streaming development.
It's just like 24/7.
Yeah,
and then leave the office.
And then you can see Brad interrupt me every 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
See why everything takes so long. No.
And then so after this phase. Oh yeah, SketchUp.
Yeah.
Thanks, Starwolf.
Yeah.
That's the program that he uses to create this stuff.
I don't use the web one. That's a new thing.
Is it a new thing?
It is a
think
new
that's been
thing.
around for like 5 years.
Probably.
Is that making a new thing?
So you have, yours is like a program that you.
Yeah, they have a standalone program as well.
You could probably download it on that.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Starwolf, for the wrong info.
No, it's. I mean, that's where you can find it.
It's there somewhere, but the one they always point you to is like the web one.
Right.
Yeah, Google sold it.
Oh right. Oh, wait, they sold it. It's not part of Google anymore. I
weird.
know that.
Oh.
It does have VR support though. I found that out a couple months ago. Yeah, but they want you to pay for it. I haven't done that. Yeah, I haven't done that.
So what after this part where you block things out? What is the next? Well, we have more pictures, but what's after this?
Playtesting. Like this is kind of a loop that we do of blocking out playtesting. We'll even do to the point where Dell and I will be playing it, and I'll be making adjustments as we play, so we can modify it on the fly.
Oh,
right, that's cool.
To really nail down and get rid of bad spaces that like we found out going between the cargo containers, grappling between them was cool, but the camera was so close that it was really hard to kind of navigate through, so we kind of abandoned that aspect of it. But and you start finding out little things like that you didn't know, and then being able to make changes on the fly as we play it was really helpful.
Yeah,
I really like Galaxians, which is Brian's idea that we should 3D print your level blockouts, and then we can use action figures and pretend we're playing drifters in real life.
That sounds
I'm totally
amazing.
for this. And then I can just film you guys doing this. And
didn't they do that?
We'll just do that as a stream for one day. We're just playing like 5-year-olds with our drifters playset.
Yeah.
He totally.
And I can do levels.
This is happening.
Well, Brian was saying that program is great for generating 3D print files.
Yep.
And I can do the Halo multiplayer starts set, start.
Dom,
leave.
You're not here because you're interviewing someone. What are you doing in this chat?
I can use all my Star Wars
figurines. Go finish your interview.
Yeah, that's happening. So actually, I think didn't the new Devil May Cry, they acted out a bunch of their cutscenes with toys and stuff like that. Yeah, it's.
Did they really?
We can put on
just mocap. Just mocap. I'm telling you, man.
We can put on little plays like sketches.
There we go.
I can ban him.
Yeah, that's dumb. Comrade General's dumb. If you guys want to follow him, Crispy. You get your beard man, Comrade General, right there. You can follow him.
Slide into the DMs.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Included as part of the deluxe edition. You get to see our our action figure version of Drifters.
We've talked about 3D printing some of these characters.
Oh, absolutely. I've been talking like we have a really cool thing of Sumo throwing out the ball and chain and just his face and I want that statue. I want that 6 feet tall. And I want it enormous. I
want to be able to eventually. We're gonna, evolve past the green screen room, and I want to do a shelf of drifters characters and stuff in the background.
That'd be cool. So what got you into level design and that whole side of things, as opposed to engineering or like more specifically environment art?
Like I said, I just started in environment art and got interested in kind of the game modes, game mechanics. I was working on a multiplayer game at the time, and I just got into that. I also got into like the visual scripting side of Unreal. So I've used Unreal 2 through 4, and I was thinking there was a 5 for some reason. And just got into the visual scripting, like using Kismet, and the old Unreal scripting was really bad. But
like for Unreal 3, like that was pretty hard to get into.
And that's some of my job. That's later on after Blackouts and stuff.
Yes, I'm just agreeing with you guys. I've never touched Unreal.
So yeah, that's kind of some of my job after the Blackout's done, is some scripting and setting up different levels, interactions, and things
interactions.
like that.
What would be?
Or AI, depending on if it's a single player game. I always forget about that since we're doing a multiplayer game. But setting up AI and combat spaces.
Oh, yeah?
And
Gotcha. So
that's part of the level building?
Yeah.
Well, so when you're talking about setting up AI for like single player experiences, you're talking about like taking these AI that's been like kind of programmed built on the engineering side, and then like
scripting them to come in. So like on Rainbow Six Vegas, which is another game I worked on, you'd come into a space, and then I'd script the guys to come out the door and take cover in certain places and attack the player, or not. I had a funny experience where we were just setting up, getting the zip lines working for the enemies to use the zip lines. So I had these guys, and basically I just told the AI to shoot the windows, like just shoot at the windows to break the windows on the ceiling, and then use the zip lines and come down. And so my first test of it, so I run into the room, and you hear the windows break, the glass comes down, and then bodies just fall, being dead. You know, and I was just like, "What the heck was that?" That's not.
They're just like,
gonna drop guys on you. Yeah. So
like
you get to see some
Ragnarok. Just
you get to see some funny stuff like that. Doing some scripting. They did not use the zip lines correctly.
Well, I mean, you set up some of our favorite little like pieces of like environment, like dynamic stuff in Stranded with like the flying drones and stuff like that, which has been really cool. Also, thank you, Captain Chris, for the host.
Yes.
And so I think like in having interacted with a lot of people who are like aspiring designers, there's this idea that like they're kind of only existing in like on paper, like their work only exists like on paper or in like placing things that have been made for them. But you're talking about this additional scripting side, and I was wondering like if you could like get into that more.
Yeah, what does the scripting entail? Like, is it
the
actual
scripting entail?
scripting stuff through typing of words?
Well, like right now it's using Blueprint. In previous games, he's using Kismet, which is kind of like Blueprint, and it's I don't know. It's like a lighter side of the programming side. So I call the functions that the programmers make.
Right.
Basically, I guess is the best way to describe it. So the programmers make, the function that this AI character is going to use a zipline. And so basically all I'm doing is at this point, when I hit this trigger, tell that guy to use the zipline.
Right.
So it's instead of doing like the programming side of what they're doing, I'm just triggering what they have created. So
wait, no, that was a series of what's going on over here?
You missed some stuff.
Yeah, I'm like,
just come back to the chat.
Is Eric screwing stuff up? That was awesome.
Half a beer, man. Come on.
Can you put up a salmon again? Did you put up salmon? Is that what happened?
Well, there was the stream when that stuff exploded where we had just salmon swimming in the background.
Apparently we missed an entire...
The camera did its thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we have the blocking, and then we have the scripting, and then when do you start going in? Well, what's the next phase?
The next phase, and you can pull up the next slide. This is where, well, actually, you can continue past that. That looks a little bit more like what the ship was turning out to be. It still had the cargo containers on the side.
Yeah.
We finally got rid of those later. I think you can go. There's what the ship. Kind of
almost.
The Blackout almost looks like, yeah. So that was getting really close, and we were playtesting these, and all these different renditions, trying to find the fun. So Yep. And then this is what some of the playtests look like in Block World.
Yeah.
Everything's gray. And
oh, so this is in the block. Like this is your early when you guys are conversing and changing stuff on the fly.
Yep. And there was some art that was added in because I think the tech artist was playing around with doing planets and testing out some art in the level. This is about the time that the artists can start like experimenting with a few things that they want to play around with. We were experimenting with a few things like scripting the asteroids to be moving and figuring out how we're going to do that and still be able to like grapple onto them and stuff.
Right.
So,
just that planet.
Or
just like a texture.
Placeholder stuff.
Yeah.
Or is going to go on the asteroids. So
no, it is interesting to see though that you're like literally spelling stuff out for where it's going to go.
And those splines, which are your favorite?
Yeah, and the splines, the grapple splines, which you won't see in game, but that's what it looks like to me.
Oh, are those the dots?
Yeah, all those dots, those are lines of where the grapple will attach to and flip you up.
Oh, interesting.
So, that's. I have to put that around everything. So that's another chunk of work.
I was going to ask, what is your least favorite part and your favorite part about?
Yeah, everything in level design has little things like this. Of,
well, it was just
I have to do this tedious work for the next day.
I just remember like the number of times when we were talking about like, well, how long would it take you to make this change? Well, I'd make that change instantly. That's going to be 2 minutes, and then it's going to be 2 hours of me like moving all those dots back into the right spot. Yeah. So good.
Yep. And then what's the next one?
There's more Blackout. It was the tower starting to take shape, and
you can see like the constellation type things. Like that's where all the grapple points are, like those dots.
Yeah, those dots on the cargo containers.
I think all of this is still from the time that you started up before GDC.
Yeah.
I think all this is like within that month and a half period.
Yeah,
he's done nothing since.
Nothing.
I went on vacation.
Why?
She's been in Hawaii
That's why he's
for the
so
last
tan.
And then we can go to the next one. So that's the
tower. That's where it's starting.
So that's after Art has done a lot of different things of making textures and getting their pipeline ready and a lot of talking back and forth of how we're going to art this stuff up and what is important to design versus how much art can just take it and go with it. So.
Right,
because like you guys need to work with the artists to make sure that the artists are using like subtle visual clues to guide the players to the correct spaces that they need to be in, right?
Yeah, visual clues, and also like we have stuff that's put in there for cover or for different sightline blockers, and they have to know that, hey, don't delete this, but and then tell them what areas they can just go nuts on. Like we're not really doing much with gameplay in this section, so you can go crazy on that.
Do you have like a list of things like this is mandatory, these are things that we need to have in the level?
Not so much. I usually just talk with the artists as they're doing this stuff. And this is after like we kind of finalized our Blackout, that like the gameplay is good, we're gonna move ahead on this. And then art starts adding stuff to it.
So there was a question coming in about if there are any moving platforms. That's something that we are like working on, like making a thing.
We have our little drone.
So we have our drones going around. There's some, issues that we're fixing with that. So we're still like that's still something we think we're evaluating.
Oh, so Eric had a question.
Redoing the you can repeat the question
show it to me. So the question was, when you create new characters, do you need to redo the level for their abilities?
Not so much.
Yeah, so
everyone has a grapple hook, everyone can shoot, everyone can jump, everyone can sprint.
Right.
So those things, and we know the sizes of the characters, our biggest character and our smallest character. So the doorways I made like the size of our biggest character, and so everybody can get through. That's more of the art and stuff coming online. But yeah, the abilities we don't really change the level for because they are more combat centric that can be used anywhere, and that's kind of by design.
Yeah, and I mean, like we kind of deliberately started with Sumo, who's we wanted to be our biggest character, and I think that part of that was so that you wouldn't have to go back and redo things if we made a character that was like 2 times the size of our first character, which you made all these assumptions based off of. So that was like a deliberate choice by the design team to do it that way.
I was going to ask if you think about characters and how each will react to an environment, and like if certain levels are designed to be harder for different characters, or
for this one it's more the scale of them. So like we started out doing cover and stuff, but a 1.2 meter, I think is what it came out to. Cover for Zola feels good. She shoots over it, but Sumo just walks over it because she's so huge. So, so we decided to just do basically like wall cover or wall height cover, which it's good for Sumo and Zola, and we don't have any of these weird things where it works for one character or another. Right. So I guess that would be one aspect where we did focus on making sure it works for everyone.
Right. What is this more recent?
Yeah, this is
I think where it's at. Yep. So yeah, this is about where we're at with it. Are we going to stream it?
Oh, I think
so.
No, he's talking to Captain Crispy. Like, I think that they're already like teaming up to play this game together. So that's what that conversation is going on.
Yes.
So in your experience, what makes a good level?
A level that gives that sets up areas of engagement where like cool things can happen. And it's kind of hard to like nail it down totally, like, oh, if you put these blocks together, this is just going to be awesome. Right. But it's just giving either through choke points or through, and we don't really have a lot of that because you can jetpack and grapple everywhere. But just giving interesting locations that fun stuff can happen, and with a lot of different opportunities for them to do different things in it. So whether it's grappling out of the way of an arena where you can grapple out of the way and shoot back down at a guy, or try to, convert a space into a way of being able to do a lot of different things. So.
Right.
So one of the things that was really interesting when you when you came onto the team is that you talked about the philosophy of level design, and how with our different modes of traversal that we're trying to introduce to this game, that like the kind of the underlying way that you guys thought about building maps had to be really different from something like Overwatch or Team Fortress 2 or other
Rainbow
Six
Vegas or any other ones.
So I was just wondering if you could kind of speak in more detail about that for the benefit of the people who are watching.
Choke points are really hard to do. So to do a choke point, you have to force players in through a certain space. Well, if you can jetpack and grapple, the only way you can do that is if it's an enclosed space. Well, enclosed spaces aren't as fun to play when you have grapple and jetpacks. So we kind of we get our choke points through the objectives and through the plunder mode, instead of doing it through the actual level design. So we're just shifting where that element is in our gameplay.
Right.
I had a question
Lost
about...
my train of thought after that.
Sorry, I distracted you with pouring more beer. Because we're stealing from... They gave the squirrel beer.
Yeah, he's already drunk.
So you were also... Sorry. I know you had a question as well.
Well, so thinking of maps for something like Tomb Raider, where they seem very vast, and these kind of expansive, very detailed maps. And I'm just wondering if when you're blocking out something like that,
it looks like a bunch of hallways.
Okay, that was because ours right now. What I've seen, it's a lot of vessels almost, where
it's almost like arena-ish kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I was thinking, when looking at these, I'm like, well, what the hell does a Tomb Raider level, where usually it takes me forever to even figure out where the hell I'm supposed to go, because it's almost sometimes it's the open world type stuff. Like what does a map look like for something that's more open like that or intricate?
All this and in Tomb Raider, it's hallways, lots of hallways where you can see a lot of other stuff, but you can't really go there. It's more like setting the stage and setting the atmosphere. And with this, it's like you can go anywhere. So I have to design things for allowing the player to do that. So it's a lot of adding stuff that you normally wouldn't, like underneath the ship we were playing with different elements and stuff of like, well, if they get down here, how do they get back around, and how we changed grapple a little bit to be able to allow for more of that.
Right. There are lots of pretty cool moments where like you'll grab a piece of loot and like the enemy team is like you've stolen it from the enemy team and they're like, stop him, and you just like jump off the side of the ship and then you're like Spider-Manning underneath the ship, and it's pretty cool.
You just bail.
You just bail. I'm out. I'm running as fast as I can.
Yeah, which it's a valid option, and then all of a sudden you look over the edge of the ship and this guy's grappling off on some asteroids and stuff, taking off. So
we have Dell pointing out choke points almost not possible because of mobility. Need to rely on hotspots instead.
Right. So did you want to
or the objectives? Like that's how we we unlocked different parts of the ship where the plunder is located, which you can access, but that means everyone's going to that point. Right. So your choke points become like everyone's going to be fighting over this stuff.
Yeah. So it's less like it's creating that density because everyone's trying to get there, not because you're like forcing people into a single spot, like with map constraints and stuff like that.
So for something that's like more like an open world game, I don't know if you've worked on.
I worked on Firefall, so that was a MMO open world game.
What is that?
With jetpacks. So everything I work on now has jetpacks for some reason.
Well, that's
except for Tomb Raider.
Right?
Tomb Raider didn't have jetpacks.
Yet.
That's nice. So what is that? Because I mean, technically, there's different objectives and levels and stuff in games that are open world, but you still can go anywhere.
Firefall, had a lot of the same things. We had.
Oh man, Firefall.
The one. No. Firefall was a lot of fun. For the open world stuff, you can come at these objectives from any direction as well. Right. So everything had to be kind of like a radial symmetry kind of thing to it, because you don't want to like set up your whole wall of enemies and no one's going to be able to get, it's going to be really hard to get through this, and then they like jump over a mountain and then come up behind them and you're like, okay, well, that didn't work. So you really have to build everything kind of planning for anyone to come at it from any angle, and then fly over it and stuff like that.
Look for weaknesses in the system.
Yes, they always do, or just snipe it from like 100 yards away. And
you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
You have two Firefalls.
Derek's favorite character is the sniper.
Ziggy.
With the bolt
action.
Friend of mine. Oh, there's a few people on here that like Firefall.
Yeah.
So is there a specific template that you use when designing, or is it different for every game? Like do you start from scratch and figure out a different way to execute the levels depending on the game you're working on?
It's all pretty much the same. Like the levels are going to be dictated by either the story or what we're trying to do or what the theme is going to be. Right. But the process is usually always the same for me. Like when I got started, before we started building levels, we needed metrics. So I had to go in and figure out, okay, what's our jump height? What's our double jump height? How big our doorway is going to be? How big is cover going to be? I even started down the way, like at first we had stairs, and then we found out stairs aren't fun when you have jetpacks and grapples. Stairs are kind of useless if you have a jetpack and a grapple hook. And same with ladders. Don't have ladders either because, again, jetpacks.
Eric's happy.
Like, sadly, please, sir.
Why did you pour it into the other glass instead of just?
Because it's my friend.
Captain Crispy says that he has a question for the tan man in the center.
Yes.
How do you feel about salmon?
Salmon's okay.
No.
Actually, in Hawaii, we were looking for.
With beards.
We had some salmon poke bowls.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
There's your answer, Captain Crispy.
Salmon poke bowls.
Salmon poke bowls. Derek approves of.
Yeah. So are there moments that you feel are like have been particularly successful in Stranded, or areas that have required like a lot of iteration? Do you want to go into?
There was the section underneath. I think there's another slide that shows kind of a destroyed area.
Is that it?
Yeah, that section had to be redone. Yeah, the initial playtests, we weren't focusing on it as much as we should have, and that space just was not fun. It was also half the size.
Well, it was cut in half. Like there was a wall that was cutting that in half.
And so we decided to open it up a lot more and just spend a lot more time making that good. And didn't take that long, a couple days.
Right.
But yeah, we had to reiterate on that thing. I think the next slide will show it from the outside, maybe.
Next slide.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So the idea.
So yeah, that's where the asteroid came through and
just like
stranded the ship here.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, that section we had to redo and clean up some of the collision stuff just to make it looks gnarly, but it's actually the collision's pretty smooth around and stuff.
Right.
That looks good.
Yeah, had to do some more work on that. It turned out well. There's actually one of the vaults that is in there too. So
right. So
a lot more gameplay.
So for our plunder gameplay right now, we have a system where kind of like if like kind of the end, like the late game part, a vault with a lot of loot gets discovered and gets and players can fight to unlock it, and then a bunch of treasure spills out, and basically at that point there's enough treasure for a team to potentially end the game.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's kind of this mad scramble where everyone's like running in and like grabbing
like
that
the
stuff.
Snitch.
The snitch.
Yeah.
Oh, the golden snitch. Yeah. Except it's like as if like there were multiple snitches just unleashed. 5 of them. Multiple stitches get accrued.
It looks amazing, Squirrel fam. Keep it up. Super excited. Thank you,
Yeah,
Toys
absolutely.
guys. We're excited. I mean, we'll get to a point eventually where we can show you guys gameplay. We're just not ready yet. And we're going through some another phase, like with James. If you saw James last week talking about kind of the evolution of a game and art and how you keep evolving. And so we've got some new exciting artists on the team, and so we're kind of going over some of our stuff and redoing it to new standards. So once we get all that implemented, you'll start seeing some gameplay for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's the final shot of kind of like the entire ship there.
Yeah. That's pretty much the level stranded. And yeah, you've got turrets firing at you.
Oh yeah,
people firing at you.
Yeah, it's pretty hectic. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch someone, like it'd be cool when we do get gameplay on here to get some of the like QA testers and seeing you play it too. It's just like watching you guys play. I'm so sad and pathetic compared. I'm like, what is this?
Well, yeah, I mean, like not just the mechanics, but also the space that you guys on the team have set up makes it so that we can, you know, there's like a very small like learning curve to get into it, because you know grappling is just this additional form of movement that you have to use, so that's a little bit more, but it's pretty like you guys are working to make it more and more intuitive every day. And then you
a lot smoother and making sure the player doesn't have to think about it as much.
Right. And then just those moments where like you can like someone opens the container that has like the loot, and they're like you can see them tracking for it, but you just have your grapple ready and you snatch that and then they just spin around, bullets start flying past you as you run out. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are some of your like what would you say are like some of the areas that have been like the most successful? Yeah, yoink! It's fantastic. If you guys
you're like, I'm gonna get my treasure. Wait, it's gone.
Right.
And then the guy just bailed off the ship.
and then you have to chase him, but you have like the golden trail, so you can sort of follow.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So what are some of the areas that you say that like have been like pretty successful from
the front of the ship's always felt really good.
Yeah.
We've had some the
really
cargo
awesome
area
fights there
in the center. I don't think I have any like close-ups of that stuff, but well, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, so this area of the ship has been really fun for
and it's
a really long time.
One of the places where you get your plunder off the ship, so that's another thing of once you collect it, you now have to get it off the ship.
Oh yeah, we haven't even mentioned that. You also have to get it off the ship.
Yeah, like it's not enough to just.
There's more to these
Can't
levels
just steal it
in this
done.
game than we've mentioned.
It's a really awesome thing that the design team set up, because it's you grab it's not just enough to like steal the loot from something. You also have to get away. It's really it's this whole caper that has to be executed that you guys have set up for us.
Let's
And
see.
from a level design point of view, what you see is like where you can go. Unlike a lot of the games where they show like these crazy vistas and stuff, and it's actually just this little hallway is where you're going to be fighting.
Right, we can even go. You can go to asteroids.
Yeah, all the
and stuff, too.
asteroids
Like,
that are floating
everything.
around it and below it. I mean, there is limits, but
Right.
You'll fall off the map
yeah,
eventually.
you get spaced after a while.
You get sucked into the sun's gravity well or the planet's gravity well.
So we have about 15 minutes left, a little less. So advice for people that want to get into level building, like what skills do you think and knowledge like necessary for a good level designer?
I got into modding, and that's like even before I was in college, is just modding different games. If you go like playing around with Unreal Engine 4, it's really easy. Like if you can learn that and get good at it, you can get a job in the business usually. They also have like you can mod Arc and a bunch of other different games through the Unreal launcher.
So would you say that's maybe a better, like, because in my experience in talking to aspiring level designers, they go, okay, well, like how do I show that my work is of quality? Because you can throw blocks together in Unreal or whatever, but mods, is that pretty much the way to like show that it's
mods are building it in SketchUp and then being able to explain it also helps. That's kind of what like our design tests are.
Right.
At least one of the ones I wrote. I don't know. We don't have a design test for level design here, but yet. Yeah, the one I wrote for like at Red 5 was building a level in SketchUp with basically that paragraph of like here's what it is, and then explaining why they did certain things, like why, where your choke points are and why did you build certain rooms in certain ways, and what gameplay were you expecting out of it.
You just want to make sure it's not like you randomly throwing shit.
That
there's a method.
And you get those design tests back too, where I'm just like, wow, you didn't know how to use the program, let alone build levels. So it was.
Twice Fried Rice said, taking the loot off the ship adds a good narrative, makes teamwork more important. Yes, teamwork is imperative to this game, I would say.
I mean, I would say that we have a nice balance where like you can like if there's if there are people on your team who are just like trolling like crazy, you can still like you can
move ahead.
Like you can still move ahead. You can put the team on your back and you can sort of carry them, but it's definitely a lot easier with the team. So I like you're not really stuck in a situation. I would say that you're not really stuck in a situation where if everyone on your team isn't acting at the optimal level, that there's just no way that you can be successful in the game.
Well, and Del had mentioned before that one of the reasons for, there's all these varying roles in the game, and they wanted to make sure that just because you're the best shot and you've spent all these hours being the best shot doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be the best person at this game. Like strategizing is also something that comes into play, and because you have Ziggy like a sniper, and you have all these different characters. You don't just need to go around shooting everyone to win. Whoa,
we have someone who's an environment artist. Portfolio looks so similar. How can I stand out? Feels like a lot of ideas have been done, and I'm stuck on what I should showcase. So, Derek, I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking on this.
I can start jumping in on this.
Yeah, sure.
So, as far as environment artist portfolios, how can you stand out? This is like the cheesy catch-all answer, but networking. like going out to events if there are ones that are near you, or even if you can like contact someone that you have a connection with on LinkedIn or anything like that, and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Like I have goals and I'm working towards my goals, and here, can you help me work better towards those goals? Will automatically make you stand out. Other than that, I don't have great advice, because my understanding with like environment art is that it's pretty hard, because some studios want you to specialize, But if you specialize, then that limits the number of studios that you can kind of apply to.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of like a flexion. Like you should be able to do more things, but also be really good at one thing, so that you can branch out and specialize.
So I know, like sometimes we'll be looking specifically for people who are talented with like hard surface or organic, and it's like you can specialize in one of those. So I don't know if you had more to add beyond networking.
I'm going to give the harsh one.
Yeah.
So one of my teachers at the Art Institute of Phoenix, he actually worked for Crystal Dynamics. He worked on Soul Reaver. And of course, being students, we constantly asked him, like, how do I know if I'm good enough to get in the industry? And he would just point at a video game and be like, does it look that good? If it looks that good, you'll get in the industry. Right. Comparing it to other AAA games. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. Like, and that's what you get from like using mods and stuff. You will automatically get like Unreal lighting stuff and other things to make your stuff look like the AAA games. And if your stuff looks like the AAA games, or you can create, even if it's just a little corner that looks like that, you have a higher chance of getting noticed, because they will people in the industry will recognize it and go, hey, this looks like AAA quality.
It seems like the uniqueness isn't so much important as making sure that it'll look as good as everything else.
I mean, because I think that there's a misconception or something that people kind of go down. I actually went down this path because I originally got my start wanting to be an environment artist, and I had this idea that I needed to show that I could do every single step of the whole art pipeline, concept art, character art, rigging, like that whole thing. And that eventually led to me becoming a producer instead. So I think what Derek is saying, like leveraging the additional like bits of polish that you get from working out of the Unreal Engine or modding for games that are coming out of the Unreal Engine.
You can focus on your art and stuff and not have to worry about, why does my Maya render not look like a game engine?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of those a lot of the larger studios you're going to be in kind of a narrow part. Indie studios, you need to have a wider kind of like spectrum of things to do.
Because we need you to fill many roles.
But yeah, visions.
But full disclosure, an environment artist here probably can answer that question.
Well, last week we had James on, who's our art director, and he specializes in environment art. So if you tune in next week, we can ask him that question and get back to you. Well, after this ends, we'll go and say, hey, answer this question, and then we can come back to you with his answer on next week's stream. Right. Because he, being the one that interviews all of the looks at everyone's portfolios, will be able to.
A lot of things have changed. Like I'm quoting what I was told in 2003. So there was no normal maps in 2003, or there was no ZBrush or any of this stuff. So lots of things have changed.
We had clay and cameras.
We had 3D Studio Max and Maya that had a horrible renderer, and that was about it.
Charcoal and tablets.
Back when Maya was like sort of.
Maya just felt like a shareware program, and everyone just used Max.
And it was like sort of like.
We also. We also didn't, that specific question wasn't answered. Finish your beer, Derek. The question you asked, Ex Mishi, wasn't answered on last week's stream. But if you go onto our YouTube channel, Blind Squirrel Games has a YouTube channel, and we put up all of our old streams on there. So last week's stream with our art director, James, it's up there on our YouTube channel for those that missed it. Oh, here comes the squirrels. This is like this is our swan song. Like Eric puts this on when we're getting close to the end. So yeah, go check out our streams, our previous streams on YouTube. But we will ask that specific question for next week's stream for you.
Yeah.
And then let's see, anything you'd caution against? Any mistakes that you see people doing, wanting to break into this?
It's a very small industry. Don't burn bridges. Everybody knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone.
Literally, every job I go to, or every interview I go to, you come into a company and you're like, oh, hey, I know half these people. You always run into people everywhere you go. So.
And you're applying here, was that like a referral from someone?
That was a referral from someone I worked with at Red 5.
Right. So I don't think that there are, from what I've been hearing, most people, like all of their jobs are from referrals. referral.
That starts after you've been in the industry a while. Like you just end up knowing people everywhere. So.
But even, I mean, it really is true. It's like the who you know in the industry, and that's why when they say like dev meetups and stuff and networking and getting to know people, even though you don't know anyone, trying to find ways to get to know people is really important. Like I had no ties to the game industry, but I knew someone that worked here, and that's how I got a job here. Like it is very incestuous.
And even doing the mod stuff, I met people at Gaspar Games through the forums, just going, "Hey, I'm trying to tweak this thing, and I don't understand what's going on." Like for example, they had arrows, the guys that can shoot arrows, and I was making a rocket launcher. I'm like, okay, I'll use the arrow and replace the model with a rocket and stuff, but it kept coming out like sideways, and I'm like, what is the deal with this? Like, it's oriented right and everything. And finally, I asked Gaspar Games, one of the contacts I had there, and I'm like, I can't get this thing to work. And they're like, it should just work. You have everything set up right. They even looked at it, like my script I had for it. And finally, one of the programmers came back and said, yeah, someone actually hard-coded it to rotate the model instead of just rotating the model in Maya. So I actually had to like rotate the model this opposite way so it would come out looking correctly. And it was just like a little quick fix that they did, toward the end of the project, that they just needed to get this to work right. And but you make like contacts, from just working on their stuff. They'll look at it and hear about you.
Right.
That's good advice.
Cool.
Any other questions, guys? This video is like Lord of the Flies for squirrels.
The background.
It really is.
It's
is
creepy.
This the one? Did you get
so
to the one
creepy.
where the owl ate like the squirrel's tail?
They're dancing.
Yeah, it's a ballet.
What?
We found a squirrel ballet. We like to use it. All right. Well, I think that is the end of our show.
All of this is very sensible. We're just gonna, tipsily stare at the squirrels dancing behind us.
Oh, his tail's in the background. This is we're all zoning out.
Yeah. Any other last minute questions?
Yep. Thank you for the show. Oh yeah, you guys are welcome. We'll be back next Tuesday at 12. Like I was saying before, all of our previous streams are on our YouTube channel. I think Starwolf put up the link on there.
Please feel free to follow us, and if you're watching on YouTube, to gently select that like button.
We also have a Twitter for Blind Squirrel Games and for Drifters the game that we've been talking about today, our first IP. Facebook, Instagram, all of it, and then also driftersgame.com.
Right.
You sign up for our email list, and you'll get updates through there.
And thank you, Starwolf, as always, for posting all of our stuff for us. We very much appreciate you.
Yes.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you next time. Thank you so much.